the Korean American college students, as members of the Korean American community, are announcing to the mass media that we will no longer be silent. Henceforth, we will vocalize our opinions and will demand our rights as citizens of the United States of America be recognized.
The Korean American students' attempts to exercise their First Amendment rights in front of the City Hall were cut short by the LAPD, which forced demonstrators to take the rally to an abandoned lot, away from the City Hall, virtually invisible to the public. They discovered what they learned about the First Amendment rights in school were in theory only. Under the city charter, an independent commission was formed by the city officials to receive public comments and incorporate public input in redrawing the map. This year, 2 Korean American attorneys, Helen Kim and Robert An, were among the 21 commissioners appointed to the commission. After countless hours of public hearings, on February 22nd, the commission released the initial citywide map. The Korean American community was outraged with the results.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Grace Yu, and as you can see, I've got my Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council whole sash on, along with several hundred of my fellow Koreatown residents.
And I, along with hundreds of other Wilshire Center Koreatown stakeholders, have been present at several hearings raising the same unified message. Keep the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council in one city council district. And yet, the Commission's draft map ignores this public testimony by dividing us at 3rd Street and effectively splitting Little Bangladesh in half instead of keeping us whole at Melrose. And by this community, I don't mean just Koreans. I mean Latinos, Bangladeshis, Mongolians. We have a large proportion of minority, limited English-speaking, low-income residents, and you are disenfranchising us.
Commissioners, tonight I would like to welcome you to the political awakening of Koreatown. We're not going to be the quiet group anymore that just hands out money without political representation. To whom do you owe your civic duties? Is it to the council member that appointed you? Do they tell you how to vote? Or are you truly an independent commission that listens to the people? Why am I reading articles in the LA Times saying that there are secret meetings going on behind closed doors? I thought this was an open process.
Several months ago, before the commission was created, it was rumored that CD10 would go into 3rd Street. After hours and hours of meetings, the map goes to 3rd Street. Are you not hearing our voices, or is this process a sham?
Korean Americans learned that participation in the political process alone did not guarantee a favorable outcome.
I have to admit I am terribly guilt-ridden over the concerns of the Korean community. They did not win here, and 10 years ago they didn't win either, and I was on that commission as well. The problem is not that they're not heard, because they are heard. The problem is this is a political process, and they haven't developed that weight yet.
We should have never allowed, as we now know, politicians, through their surrogates, to redistrict the city of Los Angeles.
The elected officials could not restrain themselves from getting involved before they were produced the final product. They were involved before, in some instances, the commission was actually appointed. In reality, we only had 100,000 people to accommodate in the entire city. Of 3.8 million people, we only grew 100,000 people. So how do you have to displace 40% of one district, almost 30% of my district?
It was apparent for me early on that this was a farce. It was a charade. And while we publicly were encouraging people to participate, going through the process of drawing that first citywide map, that this process was not open, transparent.
We showed that we knew how to listen when we wanted to, but we also didn't give the same fair and equal treatment to everyone. And that is what disturbs me most about this map. If there were some rational basis that I felt could be upheld under law, so be it. But I don't think we passed that test. I saw many procedural irregularities. I saw race being the predominant factor in the drawing of certain council districts. So I am very, very concerned about this map and would vote no.
A couple of the goals in the redistricting, and it's illegal to do this on its face, is to create 5 Latino seats and to maintain 3 African American seats. What they really did is they solidified in the city, out of 15 districts, they solidified even a stronger base for 7 white seats, because they moved the Latino population around in the valley to ensure that they were never in large enough numbers to be a threat to the incumbent or future elected officials in these 7 seats that historically have been white, even though white population is below 40%. They then proceeded to solidify 4 Latino seats, but at the same time, it was clear from the videotape that one of the commissioners clearly stated that his intent was to gut the black vote out of the 9th district to ensure it could become the 5th Latino seat in the city. So basically, they pitted blacks against browns as it relates to this issue. This is not an unconscious act. This is something that was done premeditated and months in advance.
Koreatown was divided into 4 districts, 4 council districts. And this redistricting process was an opportunity, finally, for what we've been asking for the past 30 years, is for Koreatown to be unified into 1 district.
We wanted Koreatown to be kept whole as much as possible. We were fortunate that in the state's redistricting process, which was done through an independent commission, a truly independent commission, we were able to come out intact for the state assembly, the state senate, and congressional, minus a few blocks on the congressional level.
The final maps upset the Korean American community tremendously, because while it tried to keep us intact, it failed to move us to CD13. And the reason we wanted to be in CD13 is, had Koreatown went into CD13 with other similar communities of interest, primarily Thai Town and Filipino Town, we would have represented at minimum 30% of the voting population, which would one day allow the Asian American community to elect not just an Asian American, but any candidate that would be more responsive to the Asian American community's needs.
They refused to put the Korean community within 1 district for fear that it would have sufficient visibility and numbers to where they actually could have the ability to eventually vote in someone out of the Korean community into an office.
This redistricting process proved once again that we have given campaign contribution after campaign contribution to those elected officials who have not helped us. Since the riots, yes, the Korean American community has been giving a lot more political contributions. And I think it's a good thing. We're becoming more civically aware and civically engaged. Now the problem is, and it's growing pains, we are giving tremendous amount of political contributions, but we're not necessarily giving it correctly.
If you're sitting there in Koreatown and an elected official voted to keep you out of the 13th district and voted to separate your community to make sure you didn't have the political clout you wanted, why would you fund them in the future? Why would you invite them to your community events?
It's how a person votes. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what they say. If they come to a party or an event or a parade and they smile and they wave, and then when you're not paying attention, they go and vote against you. You need to be very vigilant and very aware of that and understand what that means. Because 9 times out of 10, that means a person doesn't really respect your community.
You got to remember that we 1.5 second generation kids or youngsters are in our 30s and 40s, and we know to speak our mind. And we're American. We're raised here. We're educated here. We know what democracy means or should mean. It was just one of those situations where we couldn't sit still. We needed to voice our concern. We wanted it on the record. We wanted the commissioners, we wanted the city council to understand that this system is broken and that they are playing with unfair rules, and that we aren't going to sit by watching them make a mockery out of democracy. The message to the commissioners and the city council that if you do not rectify the problems that you have caused, you leave us no choice but to pursue
a lawsuit.
Unlike 20 years ago, the Korean American community now has the legal capability to take on the city of Los Angeles, if necessary. For example, in 2006, when a major downtown developer came into Koreatown and tried to displace 160 Korean American families in violation of the California Condominium Conversion Act, we took on the major law firm from the West Side that was representing these developers and was successful in obtaining relocation expenses for these tenants. In the process, the city councilmen, in fact, the 4 city councilmen that represented the Koreatown district, did not come out to help, but instead took sides with the developer, forcing me to file a mandamus action against the city council. This time, it looks like the city council, in their arrogance, has blatantly violated something that is required in a democracy, and that is open and transparent meetings when making decisions.
Based on what I observed, there were many aspects of the process that deviated from not only the Voting Rights Act, but basic notice requirements under the Brown Act and basic respect for public testimony and public input.
We're in the process of drafting a complaint against the City Council with the County District Attorney's Office, which is empowered with the authority to investigate these violations and to enforce the law and to nullify, if necessary, any actions taken by the City Council in violation of the Act.
The 20-year anniversary of the civil unrest, and the communities that were most impacted, unquestionably, Koreatown, Mid-City, and South Los Angeles. And we're going through this redistricting process now. We're going through, just coming out of it, and ironically, on the 20-year anniversary, the 2 communities that easily, unquestionably, received short shrift, Koreatown and South Los Angeles.
Media portrayals around 1992 showed that there was a social schism between the Korean American community and the African American community. But I don't believe that's the case any longer. And I think that this redistricting experience has shown that we have many issues in common.
I think the difference between 20 years ago and today, I think really is night and day. Now, we still have much, much more to go. We are still in our political infancy. This year we had 2 commissioners, both myself and Commissioner Helen Kim. And I think having 2 Korean commissioners on this particular redistricting commission was very helpful in that we were able to provide a voice to our communities, but also to kind of watch and report back as far as some irregularities or certain issues that were happening at the commission level, which we otherwise wouldn't have been able to see had we not participated. Our community historically has never really participated in the political process. And to see this time around, both young and old, we saw participants, speakers that were from high school all the way on to a 94-year-old grandfather who waited 4 hours to speak 1 minute before the commission. When you see stories like that, I think it really speaks volumes about how far our community has come. Throughout history, if you look at other communities, whether they be the African American community or the Latino community, political power was never gained overnight. And I think our community needs to be patient, and it's going to take some time, but I believe that we will get there. Eventually, we will have a Korean American council member. It's just a question of, will it be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or maybe even next year. We have 3 potential candidates, Korean American candidates running in Council District 13. But I think it's really up to us, first generation and second generation, working together to figure out how to unlock our immense potential. And I believe we will get there. It's just a matter of how fast or how soon.